Okay. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Moderator Nominating Committee webinar. This will be our second update, and we welcome you all to the webinar. I would like to take a moment right now and let's just have a moment of prayer. Brendan, would you mind leading us?
Absolutely. Let's pray together. Holy and gracious God, we're so grateful for another day that you have blessed us with, to be co-creators with you of all things good, all things wholesome, and all things holy. As we gather together on this webinar, we ask, oh God, that your Spirit might continue to stir among us, that your Spirit might continue to whisper to our hearts and our souls as we journey toward that time when you will reveal for us the one who will lead us into the next chapter of our movement. Be with us, we pray. In the name of Christ and all that is holy. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Let me just do a little housekeeping for a moment and remind everyone who's on the webinar, if you have questions, there is a chat box to your left that is for questions only. If you have comments, the chat box is to your right. Please restrict comments to the right and questions only to the left. At the end of the informational portion of the webinar, we will go through the questions and answer as many as we can in the time allotted. With that said, is there anything else, committee members, that I'm leaving out of the housekeeping? Okay, then we'll move on. Let us do a short introduction of ourselves as members of the Moderator Nominating Committee of 2019. I want to take a moment just to introduce those who are here as well as our co-chair who is not. So we'll begin with Velma Garcia. Velma's a member of MCC Austin and has been involved with MCC at the very least since 1992. In Austin, she serves as both a lay delegate, a deacon. She's also a former network leader as well as a lead program faculty member, which is how many of you know of her. Velma's ridiculously dedicated to MCC and its international mission, and we're just happy to be working with her. Our other co-chair is Pastor Gavin Ward, who is unfortunately unable to be with us today. I've been told to inform you that he needs his rest. He is on a different time zone, and therefore this is a really awkward time for him. But he has made the other webinars, and he will make more in the future. Just as a way of introduction, Gavin is a member of Sydney MCC. He has served in various times as pastor, as a board member, as a vice moderator in different churches, and currently serves as a music minister and works in safety management. So he brings a lot to this committee, and we appreciate his leadership as well. He's been active with MCC since 2001, and we love having that history. Speaking of history, moving on to our vice chair, Reverend Brendan Boone. Brendan is with First Coast MCC out of St. Augustine and has been with MCC since 1983. Brendan, don't shake your head. You know it's true. Brendan has been a pastor, a lay delegate, a student clergy. He's served on theology teams, security teams. Brendan is an all-around servant to this denomination, and we are so lucky to have him. We are blessed beyond comprehension to have him working on this committee and serving in this denomination. Thank you so much. That brings us to me. I am Kelly Taylor White. I am currently with MCC Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I serve as a board member. I have previously served in other MCCs as a lay delegate, as a board member, as a risk management officer, and I, too, love serving this denomination. It is my pleasure, it is my calling, and it is a joy. I have been with MCC off and on since 1990 and consistently since 2005. That brings us to last but not least, our wonderful Stan Kummer. Stan is currently a member of NEMA MCC in Nairobi, Kenya. Stan has been with MCC since 2012 there and has served as a lay delegate. He works in diversity management, and he is the best project manager I have ever worked with in my life. I count it all joy to work with Stan on a daily basis. He is a blessing to this committee. So that's a short introduction of us. If you want more information on the committee itself or the members thereof, we do have a link to the videos that we constructed. You're welcome to view those at another time. Please don't click into them during the webinar, but you can view them later, and that link is always available on the website. So thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. We're going to move on to the next section of the webinar here, specifically looking at the role of the MNC. For some of you on the webinar, this may be a repeat, but we're doing it for the benefit of those who were not able to make the first webinar. We have been appointed by the governing board as per UFMCC bylaws, where in the bylaws it reads as follows: the moderator nominating committee. The governing board shall appoint a moderator nominating committee of 5 persons. The responsibility of the moderator nominating committee is to actively solicit candidates for the position, review any and all applications, and select up to 5 qualified candidates. The qualified candidate shall be presented by the governing board to the General Conference for election. As the MMC, we also have the responsibility, again, to actively solicit candidates for the position of moderator, to review any and all applications, and to select up to, underscoring, up to 5 qualified candidates who shall be presented to the governing board, by the governing board to the General Conference in 2019. Currently, this team is meeting every week via video conference. We're fortunate to have our meetings last no more than 90 minutes, which is a very good thing. But we meet once a week, and we plan to have a face-to-face meeting as well that will be happening later on. We continuously ask that you pray for our work, you pray for our strength, and that you pray for us to constantly be open to the movement of the Spirit as we all journey together through this process. If you're looking at this stair-stepping graphic, if you will, what's important to note is where we are in this particular moment. We started off planning and listening. Then we identified individuals who would be potential candidates. Now we're in the process of the solicitation and recruitment process, collecting data, collecting documents, and this is where we are at the stage of this process. Next on the schedule, Velma.
Hello, there I am.
Gotcha.
The application package, we've worked really hard to develop and publish the application documents that gives the potential applicants information about MCC and about the role of the moderator and about what or who we are looking for in the applicant. We encourage everyone to have a read of these documents and to consider nominating those people whom you believe could be a good applicant. The nomination and application process is currently open, and we will talk more about that a little bit later in the webinar. And all these things you can find on the homepage of the MNC on the MCC website. Next slide. The MNC survey. As part of the listening phase of the moderator nominating committee process, the MNC created a survey that was then made available to all MCC members and friends. And this survey was designed to ask participants these 4 things. what characteristics they want the new moderator to have, the challenges facing MCC and the new moderator, the responsibilities of the new moderator, and then various demographical questions. The survey was available to be completed online for 27 days, and there were 567 completed responses to the survey. The survey was offered in 4 languages with the following responses completed in each language. English was 550, Spanish was 14, Portuguese was 2, German was 1. The MNC would like to thank everyone who took part in the survey. It has given us vital information that will help us as we do our work. The full summary of the survey can be found at the MNC webpage. We encourage everyone to read the survey and to share it with your churches and networks. The link is there. Please do not click on it at this time. We also want to share a little bit more of information from the survey. The next slide pertains to question 1. Which primary responsibility of the moderator do you feel should be important when considering the candidates for moderator? And this is most important at the top and working our way down to the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Top 6 items. Works with the governing board to develop a strategic direction for MCC. Serves as the primary pastoral and prophetic leader of the MCC denomination and its global movement. Serves as the primary spokesperson for MCC to the media, churches, and other LGBTQIA organizations. Assures sound financial management of MCC, serves as coach, pastor, and spiritual director, and serves MCC as her CEO. Question 2 pertained to which of the characteristics are the most important in the person serving as moderator. Most important being at the top, working our way down. Transformational and inspirational leader who can work effectively with others. A visionary leader who can articulate the big picture of how MCC could look. Be a preacher, teacher, and share MCC's message of God's all-inclusive love for all. Advocate for social justice and human rights. Be skilled and effective and well-grounded. And the last one, do and be MCC, is not just do MCC, but also be MCC. Question 3 was how important are the following skills, attributes, and qualities in a person serving as the moderator? Most important at the top again, a person of integrity, humility, strong character, and compassion. A leader who fosters faith, confidence, loyalty, and compassion. A person capable of handling conflicts openly and honestly. A bridge builder, one who is able to promote unity and harmony in MCC and beyond. A pastoral and spiritual matured person, and a creative thinker. Question 4 was how important is it that the person serving as moderator has the following background and or prior experience? Number 1 was negotiation skills with proven success in gaining consensus and resolving conflict. Experience working in diverse settings and among diverse people. A proven track record of building and sustaining a healthy organization. And question 5 was when our next moderator is elected, what about that individual would inspire your faith and confidence? Number 1, integrity, honesty, trustworthiness, leadership, and visionary. Question 6 was, what are the most important challenges and opportunities for the next moderator of MCC? We were given the option to select up to 7. Number 1 was restoration of trust between MCC, the leadership, the staff, and the local MCCs. Discerning the direction and vision for MCC's future. Developing a plan to restore MCC to financial health and stability. A summary of the demographics of the survey respondents. 81% of the respondents were from the USA. 44% identified as male, cis male. 40% of respondents identified as female, cis women. 82% of respondents identified as white, Caucasian persons of European descent. 43% of respondents identified as gay. 33% identified as lesbian. The age range of respondents was skewed to the older demographic. 78% of respondents were 51 and older. Only 1% of respondents were between the ages of 18 and 30. The majority of respondents have been involved with MCC for 11 years or more, and the majority of respondents were members of MCC. The largest demographic group responding to the survey were USA-based gay, white, Caucasian, persons of European descent, male, cis male, identifying who were over 51 years of age. Stan?
Okay, so now we're going to go a little bit over the schedule and what's happening next and where we are right now. And this is very important information. So right now we are smack in the middle of the nomination and application process. And we really want this to be totally open and pray that everyone who wants to be involved in either nominating someone or feeling the call to apply do so. And there are 3 ways for nomination and application to come to the MNC. The first is that a person can submit a nomination form to the MNC and also at the same time tell the person they're nominating that they're nominating them and ask them, are you interested, do you understand, and are you open to applying? And then send that form into us, and that person needs to then fill out the entire application package by January 30th. A second way is a person can submit a nomination and actually ask us as the MNC to tell the person they've been nominated. There might be a case where, you might not be familiar enough with that person, or you might be uncomfortable calling that person yourself. And if you want us to do that, we must receive the nomination by January 11th. And the reason we want it by January 11th is so that the person has the right amount of time to gather all the things for completing the application. It would not be very good for someone to nominate someone on January 29th and the person has to scramble to get everything together in one day. Thirdly, a person may submit their application package along with the nomination form from someone who nominated them. So instead of the person who's nominating you sending in the form, they can send it to you, and you can attach it to your completed application and send it on to us by January 30th. We do encourage people who are applying to get it in a little bit before the 30th, because that way if there's a piece missing, or that we can look over the application and let you know if there's a piece or two that we didn't receive that you need to send in. This is a link to the available documents for the nomination form and the application form, and also the extensive piece of work that talks about the qualities and roles of the moderator. So there's the 4 documents that are there are the 2-page announcement that opened the nomination process right before December 1st. the qualifications and criteria guide, that is the details that we are seeking in the MCC moderator, and includes a summary of the earlier survey that Velma just reviewed, the nomination form itself, and then the application form. And I will answer the question that's on the board from Reverend Marie. Right, a person cannot self-nominate. If you feel that you are called to apply, you should find a person that will actually vouch for you and fill out the nomination form. So you can feel free to approach a person and ask them to do it and have them send it to us, or they can send it back to you. So all application materials will be submitted electronically. Prospective candidates should send an email with all the attachments as outlined in the application materials, and there is the email address to send the application. It is different than the email address we've been using for general questions. This is the email address just for the nomination and application information. Now, one thing that is very important is that as we receive applications leading up to January 30th, when we start to get together, we are trying to have a rigorous process in terms of how we evaluate candidates. It's not all about just us getting together and say, you know, who do we like and who don't we like? But we really want to be definitive and look for qualifications and characteristics. So we are using a rubric where we're actually giving a numerical score to different parts of the application, and all 5 of us are doing this independently and then bringing it together to compare our evaluation of the candidates and to then reach a consensus of who we want to move forward with in terms of interviewing. So the application components that we're going to be evaluating are the statement of purpose. You know, the person's going to explain their call for why they feel, you know, called to the office of moderator, and an overall statement of that. Their resume and experience. We're going to be looking at their speaking sample, the writing sample, and then very importantly, the answer to 6 important questions that we have in the application. And one thing is we're not giving equal weighting to all of these pieces. So for example, we're giving stronger weighting to the statement of purpose and to the answers to the 6 questions than we are to the speaking sample, although speaking is important. Also in the rubric, we are going to be evaluating the application material against the things that Velma just presented earlier. We're going to say, how will this application compare to the primary responsibilities listed in the moderator criteria guide? How do the personal characteristics come through the application in terms of the personal characteristics that the survey told that people want in the moderator? What are the skills and attributes that have come through the application? And then finally, the desired qualifications. So we're going to both look at the components of the application as well as assessing the application vis-a-vis the criteria in the moderator criteria guide. And then we also add a small factor taking account of personal experience. That, you know, if we have a personal knowledge of the person that's either, you know, a little bit negative or positive, you know, the little bit of a tiny small fudge factor that we can add some of our own background and experience with that person. So what's going to happen after we get together on January 30th? We decided that this is so critical that we do need to get together for an extended face-to-face time to really pray and look at and discuss the applicants. And we are gathering in Austin. We are going to be basically self-funding our own getting together for this meeting because we feel that this calling on being on the MNC is so important. And we also have arranged training by trained facilitators to work on some unconscious bias training, because it really is possible that we can come with unconscious bias, things that are part of our background, and we need to know how to mitigate that and make sure that we put aside biases that might be based upon race or age or gender and things like this. And there are, the two facilitators for this are trained psychological unconscious bias trainers. And I think I went ahead and presented one of Velma's charts, didn't I? Sorry about that. I hope you don't mind. So I will turn it over to Velma to go through the rest of what we're going to be doing at the January 30th meeting.
That's quite all right, Stan. The interview process will be next. We will then start at our face-to-face, arranging, after our face-to-face, arranging 4 interviews with the appropriate candidates. The short list of up to 5 candidates will be selected. This means there could be a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. We will then inform the governing board about the short list of candidates by probably by March 1st. And once this is done, the governing board will announce the list of candidates to the whole governing body of MCC. We do want to mention that it's important to note that no member of the governing board, no MCC staff member or volunteer, no elder, and not even the interim moderator will be informed about any of the candidates before we release the final slate to the governing board to be shared with all of MCC. There is one exception, and that is one MCC staff elder, but to clarify, that is Reverend Elder Dr. Mona West, in her capacity as the director of the OFLD, Office of Formation and Leadership, will be conducting the background checks for our prospective candidates. And she is doing this as the credentialing and licensing office of MCC. And she's not a governing board member, and she's not submitting an application for moderator. And she has, or will have signed by then, a confidentiality agreement with the MNC. I am providing an update on the number of nominations and applications we have received thus far. We have received 6 nominations, 4 candidates out of those 6 nominations, and 1 completed application. So I am confident that all 6 will submit their packet in a timely manner, and after this, I hope that others will also nominate and apply. And remember, our closing date for the completed application packet is January 30th at midnight. Brendan?
All right, let's talk about the timeline and where we have come from to get to this point. We started our work at really around mid to late July and have been running ever since, working through this process. As you can see on the slide where we currently are, the nomination process, which is currently open. Again, as Velma has said, that will end on January 30th at midnight, your respective time zone. Just want to be clear about that. So that's where we are. And then we'll be meeting together for our face-to-face meeting is the next step in the process. And then after that will be our interviews, and then we'll be informing the governing board of the slate of candidates that we'd like to put forth for consideration. Now is your opportunity. If you have questions that you would like us to field here, we're more than willing, more than happy to do that at this time. Again, if you have questions, please put those questions in the questions box that is located to your left.
So I think there's a question from Claire for Thelma to clarify.
The number of candidates and nominations.
Oh, yes. So we have received 6 nominations, but 2 candidates received 2 nominations. So therefore, there's 6 nominations, 4 candidates, and 1 completed application packet. Does that answer?
And I also would like to answer Dave's question and add a little bit a few other things I forgot to say. Yes, sitting elders and governing board members are eligible to be nominated, and also to nominate people themselves. We want this to be a totally open and transparent process where every single person can feel if they're called to either apply or to nominate, that they can do so. Also, very importantly, is we are not going to be pre-sifting nominations prior to January 31st and saying, gosh, we got 8 nominations, we're going to throw out these 4 and only pursue these 4. Every single person that's nominated, we are open to receiving their nomination package. And we want to encourage everyone who is nominated to go ahead and apply if you are called. So just because you don't hear from us does not mean that we're not interested. So we're not going to go through and say, okay, person A, you've been nominated from somebody, we're interested in hearing from you, and then person B, we're going to say, we're not interested, don't bother. We want everyone who is nominated to feel free to apply, and then we want to be totally open to all nominations and applications when we start our face-to-face on January 31st.
Additional questions? I'm thinking we should take silence as a positive, but I'll wait a few more minutes.
And remember, you can always send us an email to the MNC email address. We are happy to respond within 36, 48 hours.
The contact information is there, as well as the link for the web page for the MNC.
Just remind you, if you want to invite others or listen again, we have a call tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That is going to be a Spanish language translated call. And then we're going to have another one on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern, since we know that the morning time, might not be convenient for some people who might, not be able to get away during the day. So we're going to have the duplicate call Thursday evening.
Question being asked, would you be willing to share the demographics of the 4 current candidates?
Not at this time.
Also, Mike wants to remind us that this has been recorded and will be available later this week for people to watch. So, if you know of people who you think wanted to be here and could not attend, or you want to share it with others, when that information comes out, feel free to share it.
Just want to remind everyone again of the email address for submitting applications and nominations, mccmnc19@gmail.com.
And for clarification, Reverend Marie, as we stated at the beginning of the webinar, what is crucial to this process is we are being as open and transparent while also being as fair, and part of that is maintaining the confidentiality of the applicants until such time as they are announced. Therefore, releasing demographic information would be a disclosure and a violation of the confidentiality that we have agreed to. However, thank you for asking, and we are trying to be as open and transparent as we can while still respecting the process.
Question, how will the face-to-face interviews of the candidates take place?
Should I respond?
Sure, go ahead, Velma. You want Velma?
Yes, I do want to clarify that we will not have face-to-face interviews. We will be conducting those virtually. The face-to-face is for the MNC team to sit with all the applications and information, and they'll really work together and process together the slate of candidates
that we're going to interview. So what's going to happen is, say we get 10 applications, we're going to sift through those very extensively, including getting our unconscious bias training, and then decide who of those 10 would we want to go and do the extensive interviews. Those interviews will then happen during the month of February, I think via Adobe Connect or some similar tool. And then after doing those interviews, we will come up with the slate in mid-March that'll be communicated first to the governing board. The other thing that we'll be doing during our meeting that I'm very encouraged about is we're going to have a prayer and communion time, every day while we're meeting, because this is a God-led spiritual activity that we're going through. We want to make sure that we really have God's Spirit with us during this time. And I'm excited, to spend the time with my fellow MNC members in worship. And also we are going to be doing a lot of work on, the interviewing questions that we're going to ask in the interviews and putting those together in our extensive face-to-face working team time. What do you mean by slate? By slate is the up to 5 candidates that will be presented to the General Conference to be voted on. And that could be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 people. And that is what is going to be shared with the governing board on March 15th or so, and then very soon thereafter shared with all members of MCC. And then during the April, May, and June time frame, we'll be organizing various activities where the candidates will be able to share and do some online activities so that you have time to get to know the people and prepare and pray about voting at General Conference.
Next question. Can folks submit potential questions to the MNC to use in the interviews?
I would say absolutely. Any input that we get from people, we take seriously and we welcome. So, Reverend Laurie, if you have some good questions that you think the team should ask, do send them to the general NMC address before January 30th, and we'll take those into our meeting with us.
Any further inquiries?
I just posted that all questions and responses will be placed on the MNC website in the FAQ section.
Yeah, we do have a FAQ document that included early questions that were emailed to us and questions that came up in our first webinar, and then we will create another section on questions that came up in this set of 3 webinars, and it should be available about a week after the webinars.
I don't see any further activity.
Okay.
And so, Velma, I'm going to turn it over to you, my dear.
Well, all right. Without any objections, we'll close this one down. As we go from here, I just pray that the good Lord, I see somebody typing, we'll come back to that, that the good Lord watches over each and every one of you and keep us in your prayers, and we will pray, continue to pray diligently for MCC, for this process, for the next moderator, for MCC's future. Thank you all for being here.